Welcome back to WN Movie Talk. I'm Trev, and today we're counting down 10 underrated comedies from the 80s that you may have missed. The 80s gave us some iconic comedies, but there were plenty of hidden gems that flew under the radar. Today we're shining a light on those films that deserve more love. But before we jump in, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button to support the channel. First up is Better Off Dead, a quirky offbeat comedy starring John Cusack as Lane, a teenager dealing with heartbreak and a series of bizarre events. Whether it's fending off a relentless paperboy or learning to ski, Lane's journey is filled with surreal humour that sets this film apart from your typical teen comedy. Cusack's dry delivery makes this oddball adventure one of the most memorable and unusual comedies of the 80s. If you're into weird but heartfelt humour, then this is one to add to your list. Next is Real Genius, where Val Kilmer plays a genius college student who's as cool as he is brilliant. Set in a tech-focused university, the movie is filled with pranks, inventions and sharp humour. What makes it stand out is its witty take on being a young genius, coupled with some great 80s tech references. If you love smart, inventive comedies, then Real Genius is one you can't afford to miss. If you enjoy a mix of action and comedy, then Midnight Run is one of the best buddy films you've probably overlooked. Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin star as a bounty hunter and an accountant on the run, and their odd couple dynamic creates some of the sharpest dialogue in an 80s comedy. This film has the perfect blend of high-stakes action and laugh-out-loud moments with surprising depth in the characters' development. If you're after a comedy that packs a punch, then Midnight Run is a must-watch. Robin Williams and Walter Matthau team up in The Survivors, a quirky comedy about two men who become the targets of a hitman after a failed robbery. Williams brings his signature high-energy performance while Matthau plays his straight-laced counterpart, leading to hilarious situations. This film didn't get the attention it deserved, but the contrast between these two actors' comedic styles makes for an entertaining watch. It's one of those films that keeps you smiling with its off-kilter humour. Now, before we go any further, I'd love to hear from you. What are your favourite underrated 80s comedies? Have you seen them here? Number 5 is 3 O'Clock High. 3 O'Clock High is a high school comedy, but instead of the usual teen romance or prom antics, it's about a kid who accidentally gets challenged to a fight with a school bully. The entire movie builds suspense towards his inevitable showdown, and it's shot almost like a western. This one delivers on the tension and the laughs, making it one of the most unique teen comedies of the decade. Definitely worth a watch if you're into something different from the usual high school fare. Number 6, Johnny Dangerously. Michael Keaton stars in this hilarious spoof of gangster films. It's full of rapid-fire jokes, absurd wordplay and sight gags, all wrapped up in a playful parody of 1930s crime dramas. Keaton's performance is spot on, mixing charm with humour in every scene. The movie's ridiculous situations and slapstick moments make it a laugh-out-loud comedy that doesn't take itself too seriously. If you love spoofs, this is a hidden gem from the 80s that deserves way more attention. Next we have Ruthless People, a dark comedy featuring Danny DeVito and Bette Midler and brought to you by the creators of Airplane. DeVito plays a businessman who, believing his wife has been kidnapped, is thrilled about it since he wants to be rid of her anyway. However, the plot twists as Midler turns out to be a tough cookie who has her own plans for her captors. Sharp wit and clever writing make this film a standout, and it's a perfect mix of dark humour and absurdity. If you haven't seen it yet, it's definitely worth a watch. For something truly offbeat, we've got Strange Brew, a Canadian comedy starring Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas as two beer-loving brothers who uncover a bizarre conspiracy at the brewery. Their antics are absurd and the humour delightfully silly, making it a cult favourite among fans of quirky comedies. If you like movies with a surreal, anything-goes kind of vibe, then Strange View is a hidden gem worth exploring. Here's one that often flies under the radar. Who's Harry Crumb with John Candy? He stars as a bumbling private investigator who somehow manages to stumble his way through cases. Candy's physical comedy and impeccable timing elevate the slapstick humour, making this film a light-hearted and entertaining ride. And while it's not as well known as some of his other work, Who's Harry Crumb is a solid entry in his filmography and a fun watch for fans of classic 80s comedies. And finally, we're finishing off with Modern Problems, a forgotten Chevy Chase gem. Modern Problems is a film that follows a man who gains telekinetic powers after being exposed to nuclear waste. Chase's deadpan delivery and the ridiculous situations that follow make for some hilarious scenes, especially as his powers spiral out of control. It's a bizarre premise, but the combination of slapstick comedy and Chase's signature style makes it a highly underrated entry in his career. It's weird, it's wacky, and it's full of laughs. And that's our top 10 underrated 80s comedy movies.